Well, good morning, everyone. We're so glad you're with us this morning. I'm Amy Griffin. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of VAS. We have Cindy from VAS with us. And I'm going to introduce, and he's going to get started with the webinar. We've got Colin Farrell, not the actor. He is the Manager of School Partnerships at Right at School, and he has an interactive session for us today. So, Colin, I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Yeah, all right, great. All right, well, good morning, everybody. I know we've got a few more people signed up, but I do want to get started to make sure we're kind of honoring everyone's time here. Uh, as Amy pointed out, my name is Colin Farrell. I'm the manager of school partnerships with Right at School. Uh, I'm actually going to take you guys a little bit through my background for just a minute. I've had a bit of a kind of, I'll say, wonky professional career. When I was 11 years old, I actually went to my Sunday school teacher, and I asked him if I could have a job. And at the time, he's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Talk to your parents. And I did. And they said, yeah, sure, go nuts. And by that summer, before seventh grade, I was 11 years old, and I was actually working as his HVAC apprentice, which by Pennsylvania law is like totally not legal. But I started seventh grade as by far the richest kid in that grade. So I was very, very excited about it. I actually went on to become everything from a bricklayer to an ice delivery truck operator. I was a kayak tour guide and surf instructor in the Outer Banks. I worked on Capitol Hill for a little bit, UPS. I just had this like very wild ride all before graduating college. When I graduated college, I got out of school and jumped into education. I went to college to become a teacher. My first couple years, I worked in middle school and elementary school, and very quickly found out I was not built for kids under the age of 14 years old. Very specifically, middle school teachers, if that's any of your background, more power to you. That takes a very, very special kind of person. I jumped into teaching high school. I spent most of my career teaching in Fairfax County Public Schools. Most of that was at South County High School in Lorton, followed up by a brief stint at Centerville High School. When I left teaching, I actually ran and owned a small business for a little while. And what I found when I was working to hire new staff for that business, I was continuously running into these challenges of on their resume, these people, they had the right qualifications, they had the right certifications, they had the diplomas or degrees that I was looking for. But at the time, this is like 2015, 2016, I didn't have the language to say that they were missing. I knew they were missing something, and they were very people facing, very customer facing. They were very much like in this relationship building industry that they were just like continuously dropping the ball on. And I just didn't know what it was that they were missing, but I knew for a fact that something wasn't working. So, uh, what is it that you guys look for in school administrators, office staff? If it's been a while since you've been in the school building level, think back to your time as a principal or a vice principal, assistant principal. What was it that you were looking for in teachers, in paraprofessionals, in the building level staff? My challenge to you is this: try not to mention anything regarding the degree earned or the certifications or test scores or anything like that. So, those 3 minutes I actually felt like they flew by. I'm gonna ask the group in general. I'm gonna have Bo and Brad jump in just because I was in their group, so I'm gonna pick on them a little bit, and then I might ask you guys to jump in and kind of continue to elaborate. Um, but one of the things you mentioned is that you look for in potential applicants or applicants to certain positions that you want to kind of evaluate the term you use was whole person, and like do they have hobbies outside of school and whatever their job is. Do you mind elaborating on that, kind of what that tells you as a hiring manager or whoever might be in your district?
Yeah, I mean, we look at the whole person and we talk to them as far as, hey, what do you do for fun? What do you do to relieve stress? That kind of stuff. So you kind of get to know the applicant because if they are engaged in community events, outside events, we know that they are coming into a situation where they're able to do their job, but they're also able to, be a wholesome person in our community, right? So we talked a lot about the strong character, moral values, that good stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Brad, you mentioned one of the things that you look for beyond just the resume, if you and I would encourage you to use the same quote you just did about how resumes look. What is it that you look for beyond that resume, and how do you kind of check out that person and to make sure that they are bringing more to the table than just what's on that resume?
Yeah, in this chat GPT and AI world, every resume, every letter, every reference, whatever is going to look the same because you can rattle off a letter in 2 minutes and it might be true or not true. But that face-to-face interview is key because that's when you'll really see not everybody's the same on a resume or a letter, but diving deep into the reference checks, going checking beyond the references. I mean, they're going to list three good references, but I'm calling the references that are on the page, and that's how you can really find out who they are, what they're about. Are they dependable? Are they workable, coachable, malleable? Will they be punctual, and will they be a person you want on your team?
I love that. Thank you very much. Is there anything else? Does anyone want to jump in and kind of share what are the things that you look for when you're looking to hire new staff, new teachers, new administrators, whatever it might be?
Dr. Kelly, you want to share anything?
So for anybody that we look at, we want to make sure that they're student first, student centered. They can have all the qualifications in the world, they can dress the best, look the best, but do they have the student's best interest at heart? Do they want to learn? Do they want to develop the appropriate relationships with the students? Are they eager? Are they willing to take the extra mile? I mean, that's really what we're interested in.
That's perfect. I think thank you all very much for participating just in the breakout, but also sharing out. You've done exactly what I was hoping you were going to do, and you like fed right into my next slide here. This is a gentleman named Andy Farrell. Again, zero relation to me whatsoever. He is the head coach for the Ireland national rugby team. He also coached this past year in 2025, this past summer, a team called the British and Irish Lions. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume rugby is like outside of most of our wheelhouses. So the Lions, they're actually an all-star team made up of the best players from four nations: England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. This team only gets together once every 4 years. They select between 30 and 45 guys to be a part of this squad, and then they go do a tour of the Southern Hemisphere. So this year they played a series of games against Australia. 4 years from now, they'll do the same thing in New Zealand. 4 years after that, they'll do the same thing in South Africa. Um, I would say it's like the equivalent of being selected to a Pro Bowl for the NFL or maybe like an MLB All-Star game. The main difference is the guys that get selected for this team, this All-Star team, they actually care about the game and will die on the field to win that game. Unlike in the NFL Pro Bowl, no one's getting hurt during that game because some of those guys have to go play in the Super Bowl. Same thing with the MLB, they have to go play in the postseason. Um, so for that reason, to be selected for this team is by far like the highest honor in professional rugby. To be able to put on this red jersey and play for the Lions is just a huge, huge deal. So whenever you have, whether it's the NFL, MLB, whoever, selecting an all-star team, there's always going to be criticism and questions over like, how did so-and-so got selected while this guy over here is sitting on the bench? He's not even going to travel with them. There's always a lot of this criticism. And Andy Farrell, to his credit, basically never addresses any of it. Like it's just not on his radar. However, I have heard him maybe once or twice kind of explain his overall philosophy of selecting players to be on this team. Um, and what he calls into the spotlight is he's not selecting the best player for each individual role on the team. He's trying to select individual players to fit into a massive team of other guys because those guys, they're traveling together, they're eating together, they're living in hotel rooms together, they're on planes together, basically for 3 months. They become this big, huge family that spends all day. They leave wives behind, girlfriends behind, kids behind, the whole nine yards. They have to be this very well-oiled group of people, not just the people that tackle the best, kick the best, pass the best, have the best on-field IQ. I think the best example of that was he chose this kid. He's 21 years old. His name is Henry Pollock. There were probably seven guys that he could have selected from those four nations that were much better. It's called an open side flanker, by far the biggest tackler on the field. There were seven guys he could have chosen that were better than Henry Pollock, but he chose Henry because he became this glue that held the entire team together. Henry's ability to read a room and crack a joke, or read a room and not crack a joke and buckle down and get serious. He became this driving force behind the personality of the entire team. And so Henry, while not maybe the best player on the field, was the best player for that team because he had all these other skills that went well beyond the technical capabilities that he had on that rugby field. So what a lot of us have been talking about, and what I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes or so kind of diving into, are durable skills. At the risk of defining something that you guys are already all very, very well aware of, durable skills are these foundational, lifelong abilities that remain relevant across various jobs and industries. Unlike hyper technical skills that they can become outdated, or they might be very industry specific. Durable skills enable individuals to adapt, solve problems, succeed in multiple environments. You guys talked about getting reference checks, not about like so and so's ability to like, oh, do they know and understand the content? That doesn't seem to be what those reference checks were about. It was, are they going to show up on time? Are they going to be a good member of the community? Are they going work to develop relationships with kids? All those things that you could not see or know from a ChatGPT generated cover letter and resume. So these are the durable skills that I'm going to talk about and continue to talk about. This is just a list of few that I think if I asked anyone in this group to list a few, that's probably the ones they'd come up with. The list is quite a bit longer. I will ask you guys, if you don't mind, to come off mute, anyone. Anyone know why those 5 on the right, why those are separate and kind of highlighted there?
Well, that's what we're teaching our kids right now in the 5C initiative.
There you go. So those are very specifically the 5 C's that are called out in Virginia's profile of a graduate. So those you'll see. Yep, and Justin, I see you posted as well in the chat. You'll see throughout this presentation, I'm going to specifically highlight those a little bit separately, just so the call outs are there for you guys. All right, so I'm not going to read this entire quote to you, but this is from an article from Forbes magazine just a couple of years ago, basically highlighting the fact that HR professionals, HR hiring managers are very specifically looking for those durable skills, not just the highly technical skills or what we call hard skills, those things that might be industry specific. At my last job, actually, I knew Cindy and Amy before I came to Wright at School. I was working for Grand Canyon University, who was another vast sponsor. I was with them for about 6 years, and the last 2 or 3 years that I was with them, I spent a lot of time helping to train our new hires. And I would often tell them that the single best ability that they could try to develop or work on was what I called just your ability to read a room. But I also told them, and I was incorrect in this, I told them that's not something I can teach you or anyone could teach you. That's just the thing you have to bring to the table, and you have it or you don't. And that's what I believed at the time. And it turns out I think I was wrong. After spending some time over the last couple of years working with our curriculum development team here right at school, the ability to quote unquote read a room, I think is actually just a summation of lots of other durable skills: situational awareness, adaptability, cognitive flexibility, communication, self-awareness. If you have all those things, all these durable skills, you actually will probably have a really good handle on reading a room when you enter a space. So, Amy, I'm going to have us jump into another breakout room. What does a future-ready student look like in your school division? Does this have a place in your district strategic or comprehensive plan? And then second, kind of follow up to that is, as leaders, we have to try to model a lot of this kind of stuff. Does your school division help grow the durable skills of your teachers and staff so they can continue to model that for students as well? All right. It sounded like there's some great discussion as I re-enter the room. I am going to ask Scott, actually, if he doesn't mind coming off mute. One of the things that we talked about is, again, how are we developing these durable skills in our staff as well? And what's the plan for that if we don't have a plan already in place? And he has a group called Lead Innovators, and I'd like for him to kind of tell you guys about that.
Certainly. So, good morning, all. In Nelson County, we developed a profile of a Nelson graduate, and of course, it's aligned directly to the 5 C's and what we want for our graduates when they finish up. And we have a group of teachers called Lead Innovators, and it's where our principals select a few leaders from each of their schools, and we bring those folks together and we look at ways that we can strengthen professional learning within our division. So one of the things that they're going to be focused on moving into the second semester here is how do we bring our profile of a Nelson graduate alive and make sure that that's embedded in each of our classrooms, both at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. So that group then can specifically take that learning back and model and talk about how to embed those skills within their respective schools.
That's great. Thank you. I think someone else was chatting when I came back. I don't mean to put them on the spot if they want to come off mute, but it sounded like you guys had some great discussion. Does anyone else want to hop in and share again, what does a future ready student look like? Is that in your strategic plan? And then if there's any plans for developing those skills in your teachers and staff too? And if not, that's okay. I don't mind. We can keep on powering through.
I'm sorry, I'm switching technology. I apologize. I entered the meeting late because I came from a meeting a little late, and I'm sorry that I'm starting a little bit behind. But yes, I was the one talking to the fine ladies who I joined with earlier while you guys were in breakouts. I'm not sure if you guys did introductions, but I'm Shantae Knight, and I'm the assistant superintendent for teaching, learning, and leadership here in Frederick County. And I was sharing with them how apropos, because we actually have a section called out in our strategic plan, both dedicated to the development of durable skills. So we have 4 academic commitments in our strategic plan, one of which is 3rd grade proficiency in reading, one is 8th grade proficiency in mathematics, one is post-secondary planning for all students by the time they graduate from high school. So all of our children end up in one of the 3 E's. And then the 4th is ensuring that all of our students have durable skills. So one of the things that we're working on here as a district, and one of the reasons I joined the webinar, is we anticipate over the course of next year developing what we are calling scorecards for students, essentially, so that we can begin to measure the experiences that we are hoping to align with our children over their course of their K-12 trajectory. That we believe beginning early is the best way to develop durable skills and to give them authentic experiences to really foster those. So we are working towards the development of a scorecard, we hope, that will allow students to take some ownership for that development. And that's what I'm hoping to learn about today. So that's what I was talking about with them.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to move us on, but Shantae, I do want to call out one of our school division partners that we have here in Virginia. We work with Henrico County Public Schools, and our conversation with them actually started because they also developed a scorecard to monitor and grow their durable skills in their students as well. I'll be happy to connect you with the individual who kind of led that effort down at Henrico.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and they're doing some really incredible things down at Henrico.
Very good.
Amy or Cindy, can you confirm that I successfully reshared my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's see here. So this is what we've been diving into. Again, I'm not going to beat the horse that's already dead. As you know, that we have this profile of a graduate as laid out by the Department of Education. We have these very specific 5 C's. This profile of a graduate doesn't just label and call out like specific pieces of information kids need to retain, but also these skills that we need to bring beyond the classroom, beyond high school, so they can enter college or the workforce, the military, whatever it might be, with all the skills they need. But we've also been chatting a little bit about the things that we want our teachers and staff to show up to every single day. These standards I know have changed over time, but if we look at the performance standards that teachers have to adhere to, when I was teaching in Fairfax, it was every 3 years we had this like very serious evaluation that we had to go through. I assume it's the same everywhere. I assume it's probably still the same now, where you had to provide evidence that you were meeting and exceeding these performance standards. If you look at a lot of these performance standards, they are not, and I was a social studies teacher, so I'll talk about that as the context. I didn't get really evaluated a whole lot on my understanding and knowledge of like the information I was teaching. That was kind of assumed that you had that, but the durable skills needed to meet performance standards of instructional planning, delivery, developing a learning environment that's culturally responsive, putting in place equitable practices. And, when we were in that last breakout session, Brad called out one of the things that he wanted his graduates to have was just commitment and dependability in the workplace. Like, can you show up to your job better or the same, as well as you showed up to school every single day? That's professionalism. Okay. So durable skills are also needed to meet and exceed these standards, not just the ones laid out in the 5 Cs of Virginia's profile of a graduate. So this is actually our last breakout session. Then I'm going to kind of forge ahead into what we're doing at Right at School and how that can be adapted into what you guys are doing in the 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. space. So this kind of is going to be a continuation of our last conversation. But what has your district done or does it plan to do to maximize opportunities for students to learn, develop, and practice durable skills either during the school day or outside the school day as well? So
All right.
Well, one thing I'll go ahead and I'll just call them out. I have to apologize to Bo and Brad because they keep getting shoved in breakout rooms with me, which means I pick on them when we come back together. Um, Bo, could you tell us a little bit about that workplace readiness assessment? I know some people might be familiar with it, but as you were explaining it to me, it just seemed like, oh, that's something that every class should be doing, not just the kids in a specific program.
Yeah, so in the career and technical education curriculums, all of our classes have those first 30-something competencies relating to workforce readiness, job skills, soft skills, durable skills, however you want to say it. And those competencies are taught in all of our career and tech ed programming. But as we were saying, Colin, that would be something that would be good across the whole building. And that's something that CTEX is currently working on. They're a good supporter of career and tech ed across the Commonwealth. They come to our conferences. They expand their rigor. They're working with industry partners now on this particular assessment and how it can stay around, because this assessment is actually on the chopping block to be removed from the credential list that we offer in CTE. So it's currently there now, but if a revised version comes out and approved, this credential could be off the list.
Well, as you were describing it to me, it just seemed like the things that they're working on building are not unique to any like one subset of students. So looking at it, I'm very interested in learning more about it. And
yeah, and like I said, I work with their CEO and their team quite frequently, because as the current president of Virginia ACTE, we obviously support their mission. So I can connect us offline if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
Brad, I promised the last time I pick on you. You talked about you guys have these different industries that are like healthcare for excellence or manufacturing for excellence. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what juniors in their second half of their junior year are doing and beyond?
Yeah, yes, sir. So when the 5 Cs came in about in 2018, 2019, we tried to aggressively get kids in a track, and whatever their track was, whether it was going to college or straight out of the workforce, we did manufacturing for excellence if we knew kids had that interest. We did healthcare for excellence, industrial maintenance, and the list goes on forever. And we were just starting teachers for excellence. So if we can get you tracked right, the interest is there. You're motivated. So the industrial maintenance, what happens is your second semester of your senior year, you're actually all OSHA certified. You're ready to go. You're doing an apprenticeship in the factories, and then you come to regular day school on that Friday. You work in the factories Monday through Thursday. Still eligible for sports, still a full-time student. So, but they're getting out in the industry and seeing what they really like and are they good at it, and do they want to change their mind? And it's cheaper to change their mind now than it is when they go to college and having to pay for a degree and then reroute their interests. So,
yeah. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, for reference, I'm on my third career since graduating college. So I probably could have saved myself a lot of time and money had I started a little bit earlier. But I will also say I joked earlier for those that were on at the very, very start that I started working as an HVAC apprentice when I was 11 years old. I remember nothing of like what I learned in the world of HVAC, but I very quickly had to learn about showing up on time, managing my money, all these kinds of things that it sounds like Brad, the kiddos in those programs are getting exposure to a lot of that stuff before they leave high school, which all that is going to make them more successful in the long run. Great. So at Right at School, this is what we do day in and day out is working on these durable skills. I recognize that as you know, as a private company working outside the school day, we don't have a great deal of outside pressure on us. Um, in the same way that your teachers do, your building administrators do to hit certain standards, pass certain SOLs, all the things that come inherent with being a classroom teacher and a building level principal. But because we don't have those outside pressures, we have just this crazy bandwidth to focus all of our time and energy on building durable skills, which we think that's going to set kids up for success in the long run. So I want to talk about that a little bit, but I do need to pause. Uh, Tell you a little bit about my wife. Her name is Kate. She teaches ninth grade, either collaborative or team taught. It's a different language, but she's in a collaborative teaching classroom with both students with IEPs and students that are considered general education. She's been working with those kids for 17 years. In that collaborative setting, she would occasionally have some self-contained classes when we were teaching up in, her and I were both teaching up in Fairfax, but she's been in that space for 17 years. For those of you with some background in the special education space, this might be somewhat familiar in that, unfortunately, a lot of the kids that she's been working with since before I even knew her are often the kids that were skipping other teachers' classes. They were getting kicked out of other teachers' classes. They were getting suspended. And I can tell you right now, where a lot of them end up these days is in my wife's classroom. They skip class to go hang out with my wife in her classroom. They get kicked out of other teachers' classes and they ask, where am I supposed to go? And the teacher says, go find Miss Evans, which is my wife's last name, Miss Evans. They will finish up their ninth grade year, and for the next 3 years between classes, they're congregating outside her door. They want to be in Miss Evans's English class. And again, these are typically the kids that have the hardest time staying in the place where they're supposed to be. The reason that is the way it is, and I know I'm biased because I'm married to her, and I think I legally have to be biased like this. But she makes that classroom a safe place where those kids feel respected, they feel loved, and she also she's English teacher, so she has a little bit of bandwidth. She chooses books and literature that reflect the kids that are in her classroom, so they see themselves in that same space, and they just have a really, really good time. I say all that to say that when Right at School, when we partner with school divisions, we have this kind of three-part promise to the teacher or to the school division itself, to the parents, but also to the kids. And there's some overlap in all three of those promises in that we promise to create a place that is characterized by safety and joy, because all these durable skills that we want to work on building and developing and growing, if the kids don't feel safe and comfortable, and if they're not having a good time in that space, it's going to be almost impossible for us to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish in that after school setting. So this is a rhetorical question, not a breakout. We have school division partners that work with us that use us for before school care, after school care, teacher work days, non-school days, student holidays, spring break, summer break, fall break, winter break. What that results in is those kids that access all those programs, we get them for an extra 1,000 hours a year, which is almost a full school year of seat time. So my rhetorical question to you guys is, what would you do with an extra 1,000 hours? And that's what we try to think about, our curriculum team thinks about is, if we were a superintendent given an extra 1,000 hours, what would we do with those kids in those 1,000 hours? So our after school space is designed to mirror a lot of what happens during the school day, and things that we do in the after school space can be reflected and reinforced and replicated between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. or whatever your school day might be. So our town hall is what we start every afternoon with. This is very similar to the elementary space, like a morning meeting. Okay, so if you're familiar with that, they're almost the exact same thing. We're going to do snack and attendance and stuff like that, but then we jump into the meat and potatoes, and I'll explain what that looks like in a little bit. Our right moves is basically like a brain break or getting the wiggles out. Our play-based learning is part of our flexible enrichment block. This is the core academic portion of our day. Playwright fitness is like a combination of PE and recess. So we try to work durable skills into every single one of those, not just the academic portion, not just the play-based learning portion. We want it to be part of every aspect of the day. So these things that I'm going to talk about in the next little bit, all this can be replicated in your space as well. So we start each day with a town hall. Again, this is like the morning meeting in the elementary space. This is where we build sense of community, sense of citizenship, leadership, responsibility. we have what's called a monthly IM, which, to be honest with you, it's a bit of a misnomer. These IMs do not last 30 days. They last the length of our curriculum units. You'll notice there's way more than just 10 or 12. These are the IMs for the 25-26 curriculum year for us here at Rite School. So that's always what we start with, again, after attendance and all that kind of stuff. It's a program designed to foster positive identity, relationships, and these behaviors in students through the focus on these really strong character traits. Whenever we start a new monthly IM, parents get a message through their program portal. This could be done through weekly emails that teachers send home to kiddos, that has an IM document. This document contains the definition of that month's theme, which is usually the best place to start is just by naming and defining the thing. It'll have the town hall discussion prompts that we're going to use for the next 15, 20, or 30 days or whatever it might be. Some terminology to foster conversation at home and understanding so that these conversations don't stop when the kids leave. They can continue talking about the stuff with mom and dad at home. And also, it's also going to have a list of books or stories that parents can access from the school library or the local library or free for online for what does it look like, if you want to work on your kid being more composed. Here's some books and stories that you can read at home that are going to help build composure in your son or daughter while we work on it at Rite School as well. So we're going to give parents resources. And what it actually looks like in our program space is the kids will raise their hand, or our educators will say, hey, can someone tell me what does it mean to be persistent? Someone will raise their hand, and then it's what does it look like? Give us an example of a time you were persistent. And then the last time I went to go watch in our program, I was at one of our schools down in York County, and the IM was empathetic. Kid raised his hand, said, this was a time I was empathetic towards someone else, and there was only one hand up. Kid explained it. I saw 4 kids go like, oh, that's what empathy means. Then more hands went up. Then more hands went up. There was 45 kids in that program. 44 of them had their hands up, wanting to explain a time someone was empathetic towards them or they were empathetic towards someone else. So we will go through that in person as well. So they're getting reinforced both in our program, but also they have these resources for mom and dad at home to continue to build and grow on that kind of stuff. I'll explain a little bit more later, but we have a junior educator program, and a lot of times our junior educators, our 4th and 5th graders, will run the monthly IM and be the drivers of that. This is also where we set expectations for the day. In the first 2 weeks of every school year, the students in our program have a hand in defining what those daily expectations are. So partially, this is because we want to have them be thinking about that kind of stuff, display the leadership skills, display and work on that responsibility. But from a classroom management standpoint, our educators have a lot easier time managing that after school space because they get to be like, hey, Chandra Lewis, remember you came up with this expectation over here? Now we all need to adhere to it. So by giving them voice and choice in it, it gives them ownership of that expectation and it makes it easier from a classroom management standpoint as well. So in that town hall space, these are just a few of the durable skills that we're working on. I bracketed off earlier in the presentation. I bracketed off here as well. Citizenship for me personally, I don't know if I would define that as a durable skill. I would more say citizenship is like a confluence or an amalgamation of a bunch of other durable skills coming together successfully will produce a really good citizen or strong sense of citizenship. And that's what our monthly IM is designed to do is build up that sense of citizenship. So during our academic portion of the day, again, this is where the obvious place to be would be to work on these durable skills. So I'll give you just 2 quick examples. We know that when kids come into the after school space, we can't say to them like, hey, do you want to spend another 3 hours learning stuff after you just left school? My 5th grader would lose his mind if that was like what I presented to him every day at 3:30 when he got home. So we have to make our curriculum hyper hands-on, hyper engaging. So here's just 2 examples. And we train our educators to be more like learning guides as opposed to drivers of instruction. They lay out the assignment and then they back off and just kind of let the kids be as hands-on and drive it as much as they possibly can. In our inventors workshop here on the right-hand side, students were learning about Roman aqueducts and they applied design thinking as they engineered, they tested, they iterated and reiterated those designs built out of recyclable materials. On the left-hand side, We had an around the world unit last, this is like right after the holidays. Students made what are called worry dolls, which is their cultural practice of indigenous people in Guatemala. Students made dolls and were taught that in that traditional culture, kids would use these dolls as an outlet to talk about their fears, their anxieties, their stresses, things like that, and try to unload and put voice to some of that, unload that on these worry dolls. The goal, of course, is that these kids would realize that just by giving voice to those stressors can help alleviate it. And even if that is just to an inanimate object like these little cute dolls. So our educators finish with like, hey, if it helped and made you feel better to talk about it with your worry doll, imagine if you had a trusted adult who could be an active listener and provide feedback and maybe provide solutions to you. Imagine how good that would feel. So just in those two examples here are a few of those durable skills that that we worked on. I mentioned before our junior educator program. This is open to fourth and fifth graders in our program. They have to create a resume. They have to get reference letters from teachers in the building. They have to apply. They have to interview with our educators in our program to become a junior educator. If they get selected, they get to be a junior educator for one semester. Then they have to reapply in January to get the position back. Or if they don't want to be a junior educator anymore, they can back off. But we often will give them responsibility to help run some of our parts of our program. And one of the obvious places to let them run is our Playwright Fitness, which is like recess or PE, depending upon the day. Sometimes our Playwright Fitness is like very unstructured play. Go on the playground, go nuts for 30 minutes. We'll be here to supervise, but it's on you guys. Other times it's like classic games like kickball or zombie tag like this. Other times it's a very structured sport like basketball or soccer where there's lots of rules and it's very structured. There's value in all of those, but we oftentimes let our kiddos, again, our junior educators run this. So what we end up with is, and I'm biased just because I play sports, my kids play sports. There's so much value in that playtime with those kids and so much stuff that they can learn during that. My kids used to play kickball after school with a bunch of kids that would all be walkers home from the elementary school. And I had to really, really bite my tongue to, as a parent, jump in and like take control of the situation and like run the day because they were fighting and they would create new rules and break the rules and all sorts of stuff. But I had to sit back and let that play out because there's real value in kids taking command of that, conflict resolution, negotiation. I was so proud of my, at the time, third grader. He was pitcher, a kindergartner, wound up, kicked the ball right to him. And he wound up and was ready to peg this kid so hard before we got to first grade. Pegged him, but intentionally missed wide to let that kid not just get to first base, but round to second and third, because he recognized that he was way too young to be getting pegged by a third grader. And he recognized, like, he read the social situation and played it out to give that kid a win. So there's a lot that goes into that play space as well. So this is our last kind of academic or last portion that's structured of the day in our after school space. This would be like a station rotation in a classroom setting, or maybe like during like there's free play or anything like that. We don't want it to just be unoccupied time. So we have a lot of self-directed play and inquiry built into our space, as well as the materials to back it up. We have here an activity that all the kids have to do is build a back scratcher. There's like zero academic, like I don't know the elementary SOLs very well, but I personally can't probably tie a back scratcher construction to any elementary SOL. But the teacher has this, like, our educator starts with like, hey, what's really annoying when you have an itch that you can't scratch because you can't miss it. And then we have this table full of duct tape and paint stirrers and chopsticks and all sorts of things. And they then have to take a look at what the objective is like, how do I reach that spot on my back? Kids are measuring each other's like length of their fingertips to the middle of their back. They're helping each other out. They go to this table and decide what materials can I use that are going to work best. They then have to draft it on paper like a schematic or a blueprint. They have to measure out and list the measurements of how long each piece needs to be. They have to list the materials that they're going to build with, and then they get to go and actually build their custom-made back scratcher that's just the right length and size for them. Sometimes they drop the ball and they quote unquote fail at making a back scratcher that works. But in our program, we are not outcome oriented, we're process oriented. So you do not fail because the back scratcher didn't work. we have an opportunity to grow and go back to the drawing board and try to rebuild this from scratch again. So during all of that, what we end up with is these problem-solving skills, critical thinking, planning and design, having a growth mindset, and not getting defeated by this idea that your first try out of the gates didn't work. So during all aspects of our day in this after-school space, we have an ability to work on these durable skills. We just have to be creative with how we actually build them in. And this, again, is not unique to the after-school space. All those things that we did or that I just discussed can very easily be built into the school day. So I'm going to wrap up this last piece really, really quickly because I know we're like a minute and a half from time. When I was in 7th grade, I hated social studies. Up until 7th grade, I hated social studies. I walked in one day to Jim Shoemaker's 7th grade social studies class in Pennsylvania. It was Ancient Civilizations. Every desk was pushed to the side of the room, and he had this huge table with what turned out was this massive, massive battlefield laid out with hundreds and hundreds of these 15 millimeter tall little soldiers. And for the next 4 days, we played out a battle between the Roman Empire and the Visigoths. I think it doesn't matter who, but we played out this epic battle. That was a very tiny fraction of the content he needed to cover. So spending 4 days on it was probably ridiculous. My guess is that was probably too much. But that was the day that I fell in love with social studies and decided I wanted to become a social studies teacher. And also the skills built into running an army and the logistics and the teamwork and everything else, that was the true lesson. It was not the content of the Romans versus the Visigoths or the fall of the empire. The content was those durable skills. To this day, I was in 7th grade a very long time ago, and I remember that lesson so, so vividly. So my challenge to our educators, and I would suggest, and it sounds like a lot of you guys are already doing this, is Jim Shoemaker found a fun activity and then shoehorned in the content into it. As opposed to what I was doing early in my career as a teacher was, these are the SOLs I need to teach. How do I try to maybe find an activity? Oh, that's too hard. Let's just teach the content and move on. So our focus at Right at School, and I would encourage any teacher, any educator, focus on the fun when possible, if we can, focus on the activity that's fun first, and then where can we fit the content into that activity as best as we possibly can so that we can focus on those durable skills. I will leave up my contact info. I will be at VAS this coming week. Please come see me. I would love for you guys to come stop by my table and say hello. Amy and Cindy, thank you guys so much for giving me the time and the space. Brad and Bo, sorry for picking on you guys so much today. You guys have all been wonderful.
Yeah, well, thank you, Colin, for that. That was one of the most interactive webinars we've done in a long time. So thank you for making it interactive and informative. And I'm sure that these participants will be contacting you to learn a little bit more about Right at School and figure out, what divisions in Virginia might have this, and and how do they fund it, that kind of thing. So
yeah, and our curriculum team is always happy to have conversations with anyone that's looking to expand and explore options. So thank you guys very much. I'll reach out to all of you guys later today and hope to see you guys at VAS.
yeah, y'all have a great day. Thank